Okay, now we're going to pick up where we left off. We're covering DNS. So if you can, bring up your machine. If you change your password, set it to password 2. And then go into the DNS manager. Most of you could find that, I'm assuming. Every...
Machine ain't working.
Why is your machine not working? What's it saying?
Did you do the installed or the...
You got to do the installed one. Let me see what you got going over there.
One is not installed. Roy deleted it.
Takes a while to come up. Oh, great. Run the installed one.
Yeah.
Do that. Mouse. I'm going to throw another machine in your directory. You'll have to install DNS though. But don't worry about Active Directory. Let me see if it comes up this time. She made it. So how was traffic?
It's horrible.
Horrible, huh?
It was.
Yeah. It's alright, I give you credit.
Thank you.
How did you get here? How did you get here? What roads?
I take my own look.
Okay, Melvin, I put another machine in there with you. So if that one wouldn't work, you can always use this next one I just put in there. Okay?
Okay.
You'll have to install DNS. But is yours coming up now? Let me pause this recording just for a second. So I'm going to resume the recording, make sure it's still recording, okay. And I'm going to pull that machine back out of here since we got the other one going again. Well, put it up here. There we go. All right. So we were on DNS. Okay. We talked about creating a primary and reverse zone. I'm pretty sure we all have one now. Is that true? We should have a primary and a reverse zone. Everybody have a zone in there?
Yeah.
Okay, you should have rose.edu or... Did I tell you to do your name? Is that what I told you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. We're going to play more with that here in just a second. But the next thing you talk about is a subdomain. Okay? What a subdomain is a portion of one. It's, for instance, we have rose.edu here at Rose State. But we have cyber.rose.edu, which is the area that's for my lab. So it's a subdomain of the actual Rose State domain. And you can administer it separately, you can administer it together, and they're pretty easy. Like it says here, you can break up large domains into smaller domains, and they work very well. You can just say new domain, give it a name, okay? And actually, let's try to make one real quick, okay? So we're going to go to our domain. So I'm going to go to Ken Dewey, and I'm going to right-click on Ken Dewey and say New Domain. I'm going to call it Support. Now we should have a new subdomain called Support. Everybody see what I did? Right-clicked on my domain. I said New Domain. I gave it the name Support. Then if I open up the forward lookup zones, you'll see Support. Okay, and I can make hosts and everything in there. Okay, it's it's very simple to do, and you can actually delegate out this. It really doesn't cover that much in the book, but we could actually make it where Melvin could manage support, Corey could manage something else, Sam could manage something else, Scott could manage something else. It might not sound like it's that helpful, but can you imagine managing the Microsoft domain? That's huge. It's worldwide. Did you all see the release the Microsoft Band? I had no clue. I never heard about it. There was 3 people in line to buy it. It's kind of like the Fitbit, but sounds interesting, but 3 people in line. I'm like, okay. But you could very easily create a subdomain. Maybe you can make it North America and Asia, whatever. Then you could have different people manage them. So they're pretty easy to do. Okay? Then you give it a name. You can delegate it out to somebody. Okay? And you can say whoever takes care of it. And you can actually have one server take care of the subdomain. Okay? We're not going to go much into that. Okay? Subdomain is a copy of the zone. Oh. guess I kicked something. I should have done that. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me get my mouse back. So, make sure my recorder's still going. Okay, it is. We're there. Okay. It's a copy zone that contains only necessary resource records in the master zone that acts as a pointer. In other words, it's a portion of a zone. Okay. Our zones don't have much in them yet, but they can literally have thousands and thousands of records. So it's kind of like just a portion of it to help you find them, help you manage them. Okay. So all a stub zone is. Okay. You can very easily create one. You just go in and point to the DNS server, and it's just easy. I don't know. You won't need one unless you have multiple other servers. It's kind of like a pointer to another place. I'm not going to require you to do it on any machine, so you're fine there. Actually, I think I actually could go in here and say new stub zone if I remember right. Hold on. New. No, hold on. New zone. Don't worry about it. We're not going to do those anyway, okay? But they're not critical. Let's go on to something that is critical. It's going to be the host records. We'll get here in a second. Now, caching only servers are very handy. What that means is there's no zones on it, and it's not authoritative for anything. What authoritative means is you're in charge of it, okay? So Rose State has a DNS server over on the other side of campus that manages the Rose State domain. That server is named to be authoritative, so it has authority over the Rose State domain. We could have secondary servers all around, but still one of them is authoritative for it. And if you were to bring up, like, I'm going to bring up the command prompt here. I'm going to go ns lookup, stands for name server lookup, www.google.com. It should come back and tell me non-authoritative. Well, there it is. See, it says non-authoritative answer, which means it's got a copy of it. It was cached somewhere, okay? Because somebody in the cyber lab has gone to Google today, or probably in the last, since Google updated the record, so it's cached somewhere. So non-authoritative just means it's not a fresh information. Okay, it's like some of you, I'm assuming, know phone numbers by heart. That's non-authoritative. You're remembering it. Authoritative would mean you actually went and got the book out and looked it up. Okay, but caching only servers are only caching. That's all they do. Okay, imagine having a server down the hall here that is not authoritative for anything. All it does is forward on DNS requests. That's all a caching only server does. No host zones on it. It's not authoritative. It just forwards on the request and remembers them, which is kind of nice. Okay, that's a really big deal. Okay, it gets the client requests and fulfills the query, but then adds it to his cache. That's all it does. Okay, there was a way. I'm not sure on this. They changed it a little. There was a way. Okay, see here you can clear cache, where you can actually go in and tell it to delete the cache. In the past, they had a way you could look at the cache. I don't know if you can still do it. So I don't think you can. You can clear cache, but I don't see any way to view the cache. They used to have it where you could actually see a folder here, which was the cache lookups. And you could very easily see every domain that's been queried from your server, which was kind of nice. But it's gone. I got rid of it a couple versions ago, and I don't know why. So, but that was there. Okay. So let's continue on. Okay, so caching only very handy to speed up DNS requests. Okay, how to do one? Install DNS server. Make sure it has the root hints, which we talked about last time, and that's it. You're done. Okay, but inside your server, you can configure forwarding. Okay, if you go into your server, so I'm going to go on my server, and I'm going to right-click on it and go to Properties. There'll be a forwarding tab right here, a Forwarders tab. What a Forwarders tab means is you just forward the requests on. So if you're running this at your house, you would want to forward the request on to Cox or whoever your provider is. So you would go in here and just edit this, add the IP address of Cox or whoever your provider is, then your server would get the request and forward it on and just keep a copy of it. That's all it is. It's just a forwarder. Just forwards it on to someone else. Okay? So pretty easy to use. Okay? It says when a client contacts the DNS server and the DNS server does not know the answer, it performs an iterative query, but they can also be configured to forward onto another server. That's what I just showed you. Okay? All right. Can improve the efficiency of name resolution on a network. That's all it can do. Okay. All right, and I showed you where to do that. You go to the forwarders tab, pretty simple. Okay. You can also do conditional forwarding. You can forward only certain ones. I'm going to forward on this domain only. So I don't know a good reason why, but you could. So, all right. Zone transfers, I talked about a little bit about those last time. You remember me mentioning it? Where I said you can turn them on and off. I will show you where it's at in case you forgot. Okay. If you go into cancel here, go into your zone. If you did properties here, this is on the right in the SOA area. Here's zone transfers. You can allow transfers or not. If you allow transfers, we already talked about notify. You can turn notify on or not. You will have to enable this for the homework. I tell you disable zone or allow zone or whatever I tell you. It's right here. Okay. Normally, if you do allow it, you only allow it to servers on your list or only particular servers. I wouldn't want the entire world to transfer zones for me. Okay. All right, and notify came out in like bind 8.4, I think. It was initially it wasn't available, but now it is, and it's pretty nice. Okay, so let's continue. All right, we could have full, incremental, and DNS notify. I kind of talked about those already, somewhat. Right here's the picture. Okay, what I just showed you. You can notify, again, just like I showed you there as well. Actually, they're not going to show you the rest, okay? But you can, wow, they really don't show you the rest. Okay, yeah, so that's all there is to it, yes.
Homework, you say allow no zone transfer.
Okay, allow no zone transfer, so uncheck that box. Leave it unchecked. And in the past, did anyone mess with Microsoft Server prior to Server 2004? Okay. Has anyone messed with it since 2004? All right, prior to 2004, everything was turned on. So if you were installing NT, Windows Server 2000, all those versions, it came with everything turned on. You literally bought a server and IIS, DNS, everything was enabled on the server, which was kind of nice. But it's also bad. Anyone know why it's bad? It's very insecure. You had stuff running you didn't need. Well, it was funny because I started my ISP with Server 2004. So I transfer everything, all the stuff over to the server, got brand new machines in, and nothing worked. Because with Server 2004, they disabled everything. That's right when they started turning off all services by default. So I got all these web pages for all these people, and nothing is working. So I finally get IIS, which is the web server, turned on. I get all that working. But then Microsoft had ASP pages, active server pages they called it. That's what their web pages are. That was even disabled by default. It's like, why would you turn off your own? I mean, if I install a web server, you would think they would allow their own pages. No, they allowed nothing. It's like you had to go turn on the server. Then you had to go allow ASP. Then you had to go allow JavaScript. It was like, holy moly. And it was just it was a real big change because prior to that, everything was turned on by default, and now everything was turned off by default. So it was tough, and I was really pulling my hair out. And this was one of the things that was turned on by default initially. Now it's turned off by default. Okay? All right. All right, DNS command. I haven't played much with this. It's just a command line. Let's play with it. Okay? You go as DNS actually, let's do it on the server. DNS CMD. Okay, I'm in my server, am I? Where's my darn... Why do I have this big box at the bottom? Did y'all break my machine or something? That's weird. Okay, we're back now. Okay, I'm going to bring up the command prompt. DNS CMD. It's similar to NSLOOKUP, but you can do more stuff with it. You can create zones, delete zones, edit zones, do all kinds of stuff with it. Okay? And there's the information about it. I've never used the command line version of it. Sorry, the GUI. I don't like GUIs, but DNS GUI is actually kind of nice. It's easy to use. It doesn't have too much extra crap in it. Okay, so you can just do a lot with it. They really don't go into a lot of examples. They're just showing you some commands, and that's, they don't do much with it. But I'm not going to require you to know the commands for that. So it's pretty simple. Okay, let's move on to section 9. Or lesson 9. should have finished this last week, but we didn't. Okay. Now we're going to continue on with lesson 9 here. Come on. All right. Now we need to get into record types. Okay. We know what a zone is already. Like KenDewey.com is a zone. Okay. There's a lot of records that can go with it, and they can expire. They can have all kinds of different types of them, and we're going to see them. Okay. We have DNS server already, and now they're going to show us how to create records. What kind of they? Okay. Okay. We talked about something. We already talked about the SOA record. Y'all remember that? Okay. And let me bring up my server here. So I'm going to get out of this. Okay, so there's the Ken Dewey record. I'm going to just delete my support zone. Well, I'll leave it there. But if you'll notice, there's a SOA record right there and a name server record. Those are automatically credited for us. If I look at them, this is the stuff we've already talked about with the serial number and all that stuff. Remember that? And didn't we put the correct serial number in there? So what would the serial number be for today? Oh, 01. We're making our first change. Okay. So 2014, month, day, 01. Okay. So that's the serial number. And on the name server tab, now if you watch, I have one name server record. See it there in the back? I could add a second one. I could add, what's ours down the hall? I don't know what it is. Let's put in the IP. 10.10.0.4, I think, will be one. Oh, is that this way? I don't remember what the name is. Stop. I sneezed. Hold on. Okay, let's get out here. 10.10.0.4. Yeah, I know. It's not part of my domain, but it's correct. Okay, I can't add it because it's on the other. It's not on my domain. It's on the CyberLab domain. But here's where you would add it. You would type in the name of whatever your name server is. I just can't add it because it's on a different domain. Sorry, it's not going to let me to do it. And if I was to add that, it would automatically add another name server record right there. Okay. If I click on this name server record, it's just going to go right in there to show me what they are anyway. But I can't add the other one because it's not part of my domain. Okay? All right. So SOA, we talked about that already. Name server, we talked about that already. Okay? Now you see there's a whole bunch of other records, and they should talk about it. Here we go. Now we have an A record, probably the most important type. A is a host record. It's a domain name, or it's a host to a domain. So I'm going to go ahead and create a record. So I'm in my Ken Dewey domain. I'm going to create a host. I'm going to go right here and click say host. So a new A record or new host record are the same thing. Okay. Now here's the tricky part where people screw this up. Okay. Okay. I just right clicked in the right hand window, right in here. Right clicked and I said new host. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how you're going to screw this up. Watch me screw it up first, and I'll show you what to do. Okay. I want a host www. Because a lot of people type in www.google.com. So I'm going to type in www.kendewey.com. This is wrong. Don't do this. I'm just showing you how you could screw it up. Then we'll say 10.10.0.4. Okay, don't do this. I'm just showing you. Okay. Does anyone already see what's happening? You see the domain name in the middle? What it's doing is actually creating subdomains for me. So when I say add host, you're like, sweet, I'm done. And if you look, now we have the KenDewey.domain with a .com subdomain and a KenDewey subdomain below that with a www record in it. I'm telling you, at least a couple of you are going to do it. Don't do it. So I'm going to go in here and delete this thing. I'm going to show you the correct way of doing it. I show it every time, but people do it every time. Okay, so I'm going to go to Ken Dewey. I'm going to right click and say new host. So if I want a host called www, that's all you put. Because you'll notice it actually filled in the fully qualified domain name. It already put the kendewey.com. Okay? Then you give it an IP address, I don't know what, but whatever. In the homework, I tell you what IPs to put in there. Now, actually, you know what? Let me put the domain in there. I'll put a real one in there. 10.10.40.6. Does anybody know why I picked that number? Well, remember we set up a reverse lookup zone the other day? So I'm trying to pick a number that's in the same zone as that. Because I said right here, our reverse was 10.10.40, so now I'm adding it there. Now, there's two options here. First one says, create pointer record. What a pointer is a reverse record. Okay? Remember I talked a little about that last time? It's kind of like you got a name to a phone number, then a phone number to a name. You got a domain name to an IP address, and an IP address to the domain. So you can go both ways with it. Now, I'm not going to click that box. Okay? So I'm just going to say add host. Okay? And it's done. Okay? Now, if you look, I have a new host record. It's called www. And it points to that IP address. If I look in my reverse zone, there's no record in there because I did not check that box. Okay? Now I'm going to add another one. I'm going to say new host record, www2, okay? And it's going to be 10.10.40.7. This time I'm going to tell it to automatically create a reverse pointer record. Add host, and I'm done. So it added the next host record. Now if I look in here, I should have a pointer record. You'll see it created a pointer record for me automatically. Okay. Now you can only create pointer records for domains you're managing, like this number here. Remember last time when we added this, we said new zone, we put in the, the 10.10.40 whatever. Okay. I tell you guys what to do in there. So it's pretty simple to add a host record. Now the one thing is that when you don't go to Google, what do you type in to go to Google? Just google.com. So we're being lazy. We're leaving off the www, correct? Okay. In the past, everybody required www. But then people say, man, I can save like 4 digits. So we got lazy. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. Because it won't work unless it's set correctly on the server. By default, it's not going to work. So what I need to do, see right now I got www.kendewey.com in there. And if I click on the www, you can see it says www.kendewey.com. But how do I get to just kendewey.com? Well, what you do is you add a host record and leave the top blank. So it's 10.10.0.6 or 40.6 I think I put in there. Okay? I'm at a host. Okay? So now when you look at this, you'll see I have a same as parent host record with no name. So what that means, when someone types in just kendewey.com or just google.com, it's going to go to this IP as well. It's made for lazy people. Hey, and that's the way everything works. I very seldom ever type in www nowadays. But I know that the person managing the DNS had to allow the capability of leaving it off and leaving it on. And there are some websites that still require it. I was on one the other day that required www. Where was I at? I had to go speak in Shawnee Tuesday. And one demo site I was using wouldn't connect because I had to put in the www. So it was one listed in the book. It was some demo thing. But so everybody okay on creating a host record?
Do we need to, for our homework, do we need to make it a pointer?
I will tell you in there if it needs a pointer record. Yeah, there's only a couple. I think one of them might require a pointer record. Now, he's got a good question there. Now, say this is the Ken Dewey domain here. But I don't manage my own mail. I outsource my mail to Google or somebody. Okay? So I want to create a new host. But there's a new type of record called mail exchanger. See that? Right there? New mail exchanger record. Works exactly the same way. But I'm going to call it mail this time. Okay? And you'll see it puts in the fully qualified domain name for me. Now, with mail servers, they're a little different. You need to give them the name of the mail server. So like mail.google.com or whatever it is. Now with mail servers, there's a priority. Okay, the lower priority, the better. Or the higher priority. The lower number is the higher priority. Okay, and when you make mail servers, they won't tell you this in the book, but normally make the numbers about 5 apart. Okay, that way you can always add more in the middle if you want to. Okay. Now, when I just made that, you'll see I made an MX record for mail, which is mail.kendewey.com, that points to mail.google.com with a priority of 10. See that? Well, I could say, you know what? Mail.google.com is good, but I want to add a secondary one. So I'm going to go mail to And that's going to go to mail.yahoo.com or some crap. And I'm going to give that one priority of 5. Okay. So what's going to happen is someone tries to send me mail. See, the way DNS works, does anyone know what port it works on? 53. It works on 53. I don't know why I give you 2, but 53. And it's actually TCP and UDP. It's mainly TCP, but some queries are UDP. Okay, so it works on port 53. What happens is when a record's going across the internet, okay, like say email, for instance, okay, you're going to send me an email. If you send email to kdewey@kendewey.com, it's going to query my server and say, hey, where is your mail server? In other words, it's going to ask for what's called an MX record. Then I would say, oh, my mail server is over at Google. Okay? And at that point, it'll actually contact Google and say, hey, are you handling mail for Ken Dewey? And that's actually called an SPF record, which I don't know if they cover. If they don't, remind me to talk about it. And then Google will say, yes, I handle mail for Ken Dewey, and then it'll deliver the mail. Mail's kind of complicated, but it goes by priority. So I'm going to try to deliver the mail to Yahoo. If Yahoo fails, then I'm going to deliver to Google. I mean, I wouldn't do that in real life, but like in my house, I had 2 mail servers. You always want redundancy. So I'd always deliver the primary mail server, and then a little bit higher priority, higher number, I had the secondary mail server. That way, in case one goes off. It's kind of nice because if I just turned off my first mail server, the mail would just flow through the secondary. So it acts very nice. Okay, so everybody okay on that? So let's look at another type, an alias. Okay, let me actually go over here real quick. I'm going to type in nslookup www.rose.edu. Let's see if that one does it. Okay, well, okay. All right, so I typed in nslookup www.rose.edu. Okay. Down at the bottom, the first part, it tells me the server that it queried. So I asked myself. Well, no, I actually asked the one down the hall. Okay. Then I got a non-authoritative answer. I said, rose.edu has an alias of www.rose.edu. Okay? So, I'm going to show you how to make that. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete my www. I showed you how to do that already. I'm just going to delete it. All right, I'm going to delete both of them, actually. Now I'm going to go in here and create an alias. And I'm going to say, I want www to go to kendewey.com. Okay. So let's look at that. Okay. So when someone types in www.kendewey.com, it's going to forward it to kendewey.com. You understand that? So looking at this, so when someone types in www.kendewey.com, it's going to forward it to kendewey.com. Well, kendewey.com is this one. Remember, that's the one without the name at the beginning. So there's an IP address. It's a way, see, because I could very easily have gone in here and just given it a host record of 10.10.40.6 and it would have matched. Because that one's 10.10.46, and that one would be 10.10.46. But the reason you don't do that is if you have to update it, you have to update it in 2 places. If you use an alias like this, I updated the one that's highlighted, and then the www will automatically be updated. Everybody see that? Because when you type in www.kendewey.com, it's going to forward it to the plain old kendewey.com, and that one gets that IP address. It just makes it you only have to update it in one place. Because trust me, when you have about 100 to 200 DNS records in there, and you forget to update one, it kind of sucks. Then something stops working. Okay, so let's. Okay, so we talked about A records. Aliases are also known as canonical names. Okay, when I took my certification test, I had to know that. So canonical name is also known as an alias. Okay, that's why I think in the homework, somewhere I tell you to give it a CNAME record, and somewhere I tell you to give it an alias record. It's the same thing, just known by 2 different names. Okay. A pointer record is the reverse one. That's the one that goes number to name. So if I look down here, I should have at least 1. Okay, I have 2. No, 1. Okay. So you'll see this number, 10.10.40.6, maps to kendewey.com. Okay? So as I click on it, it says this number maps to kendewey.com. So if somebody was to do NS lookup, like say right here, NS lookup 10.10.40.6, let's say, oh, that's kendewey.com. But if I did it for 40.9, be like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. It's very similar to, let me do it over here now. So I'm going to type in nslookup, www.google.com. Okay. Now I'm going to do nslookup 164.58.87.30. Well, hell. Hold on. Darn insert button. That's the button. 164.58.87.31. So, if they have a pointer record set up correctly, what should this do? It should give me Google.com, but it's not going to. Because Google does not put in reverse records for all their IPs. Does anyone know why? They don't need to. The only ones you need to have a reverse lookup for is the mail servers. They're required. Because what happens is, so I'm going to send mail, or you're going to send mail to me, okay? So your server contacts me and says, hey, do you handle mail for kendewey.com? And so basically you ask me what my number is. So I basically tell you my number. You can look up my name to my number, then I give you my number to my name. We look up both ways. Because that way when someone's sending spam, it's a little harder for them to fake that they're the name and the number both. It's hard. So I'm going to do nslookup www.rose.edu. Okay? Now I'm going to do nslookup 64.89.44.97. Okay. It didn't return. Come on. And I don't know why it's not returning. Okay, but I'm going to, and what's cool is you can also, if you put a space, 8.8.8.8, so now I'm actually telling it to query Google for that number. And it still didn't work. Okay, so Rose doesn't have one either. By specifying the IP address here at the end, it actually, you see the first one up here was using this VAD controller as the name server. By doing it this way, I actually use Google as my name server. So you can specify who to query it from. When I worked as an ISP, I had to do that all the time, especially when I was buying out people's domains. I would have to query their domain to make sure it was still there and wait for them to update it, and it was a lot of work. Okay, so let's continue on. So, pointer records are reverse. Mail exchanger are mail, like I just told you. It's for managing mail. Then we also have service records. Service is, let's go, we need this one. Let's go and look at a service record. Okay, so if I right-hand click here, I have other records. See this? Other new records? Then I can select a whole big old bunch of them. And service records are right here. So I'm going to add a service record. And I can go in there and select, is it mail, is it FTP, or whatever it is. What this is handy for, you can go in and say, okay, on my domain, FTP is managed at a certain host. It's managed by ftp.kendewey.com. Because there's a lot of times a service will automatically query something and say, hey, who's handling FTP? Or who's handling whatever? You know, this whole list of stuff here. Okay? Who's the telnet server? So you can add service records. It's really only needed in an Active Directory domain environment. Out on the internet, you're not going to use that. Okay? But so we showed you that kind of record. Do they have SPF in here? Anybody? I don't see SPF. It's actually a text record. They gotta have it by now. Wow, that's weird. Well, let's see if the slides talk about it first. Okay. There are service records. We talked about the SOA records already. Okay. We already showed you that. We already did that. We talked about a name server record. Did that. We talked about a host record. Oh, and I didn't mention it, but the AAAA is IPv6 host records. Okay. I'm not going to require you to make any of those.
So an A record and host record is the same thing?
Yes. I think on the homework, somewhere I ask you for an A record, somewhere I ask for a host record. Somewhere I ask you for Canonical or CNAME, somewhere I ask you for an alias, same thing. So right there. It's just two names. Okay. They were always an A name, an A record. But then people say, what's an A record? Well, an A record is pointing to a host. So that's why they got the name host record. Okay. All right, and there's a host record. We already saw that. There's canonical name, which is an alias. Saw that. There's pointer record. We saw that. There's mail server. See, for fault tolerance, you can actually specify multiple mail domains like they are in here. So MX5 is mail server 1, MX10 is 2, and so on and so forth. So it's going to try server 1, then it's going to try server 2, then it's going to try server 3. They say to leave them about 5 apart. You could put them right next to each other. It doesn't matter, but the lower number is the higher priority. Okay? It says the primary mail server is the first one because it's a lower number. All right, and there's an MX record. Service records, again, that's different protocols you could use. I want to see, are they going to get to the other one? Probably not. Record options, host record, I'm trying to see. No, they're not going to do it. You just suck. All right, let's go back and look at it here for a second. Well, there's an option in here to create a text record. See that? A text record can be anything. It's just text. Okay? But I want to bring up a website now. It's spf.org, I think. Is it? No, it's not. Oh, that's not what I wanted either. Okay, openspf.org. There it is. Okay. OpenSPF is for Sender Policy Framework. And you can actually create a record on here somewhere. There's the syntax, there's the tools, record testing tools, creating, checking. Is there one that makes it for? There's somewhere in here I can make one. That's what I want to find. Haven't used this in a couple years. They used to have a little click the button and you could just make one. Null, news, support, forums, tools, what's IPv4? Anyone see anything in here where you can make one? It used to have right here. It was like, create an SPF record right here. News, deploying, community help, further reading contact us. Wow, they got rid of it? That's crazy. Well, let's talk about it for a second. Okay. What an SPF record is a sender policy framework. It's a way for you to say who manages mail for your domain. Okay, let's look at an example down here. Okay, here's an example where I'm saying my mail is managed by this IP address. Okay, so it allows all IPs between this range to send an email. And then where's the other one? Where is? Okay, here it is. Okay, well they're not. Basically, you specify who manages your mail. And in this case, it's mailers.example.com. When an email gets sent, say an email gets sent from rose.edu. Actually, can we see roses? Let me look up nwtools.com. I might be able to see this. Yeah, let's do DNS record advanced. I want to see a text record. Do they have SPF listed? Probably not. Any type. Come on, it's got to be in here. I know I just saw text, didn't I? There it is. Text. Okay. We'll do rose.edu. I don't know if they're going to have it configured. Okay, there it is. So Rose State has an SPF record right here. I know it's hard to see. But basically what this is saying is our mail is managed, and all mail leaving this school should be coming from mail.rose.edu or mail.rose.edu or mx2.rose.edu, and there's its IP address. No, I'm sorry, that's not. It's the name. The IP of our domain is this, but our mail is handled here. Okay? So anytime an email is received, okay, so say I'm at Rose State sending you guys some mail. Okay? It gets to your mail server. Your mail server is going to say, okay, this mail came from kdewey at rose.edu. Okay? So it queries rose.edu and says, hey, I want your SPF record. Where should mail be coming from? And then it says it should be coming from mail.rose.edu and mx.rose.edu, mx2.rose.edu. So then your mail server knows that information now, so then does NS lookup to determine what the IP address is of those. It's verifying that it came from the right place is what it's doing. It's a little confusing, but it really cuts down on spam. Because the way, I don't know if you guys realize this, but you know when you send a letter at your house, remember we used to do that? You send a letter, you write an envelope. What goes in the top left-hand corner? Return address. Did you know that you could actually put, say you're sending a letter to your grandma in Connecticut. You could put your grandma's address in the center. That's where it's going. You could put your grandma's address in the top left corner and no postage. What do you think will happen? They'll try to deliver it to your grandma in Connecticut. They'll say, oh, there's no postage. So you're going to send it back to your grandma in Connecticut. It works, trust me. Okay? But point is, there's no verification of that sending address. So I could say that my name is Bill Gates at Microsoft.com and send out an email. People do it all the time. So what SPF does is it gives the recipient a way of looking up and say, okay, this came from B. Gates at Microsoft.com. So it contacts Microsoft and says, hey, where should the mail have come from? What's the server name or server numbers and names? So then it can look and say, wait a minute, this came from some address in Russia. It didn't come from MX1 or MX2 dot whatever. So it can just delete the record. So it's kind of nice. And the nice thing about this is it remembers. There's a caching. You can have whitelist, blacklist, and gray listing. And there's way more than what they cover in here. But whitelist, once they look up rows one time, they're good with it for a while. I think it's 30 days. Blacklist means once they look it up and find out it's being spammed, they just put in a blacklist and delete all mail coming from there. So that's a good way. Gray listing, what they do is they hold it, which I had, when I ran my ISP, I turned this on. It really cut down on spam. But what it would do was, it'd receive an email. It wouldn't accept it. Okay? It would say, I'm sorry, I'm busy right now. And then a legitimate mail server would wait 4 to 5 minutes and then send it again. Okay? That's the way they work. But do you think spam mail servers do that? No, they just send out 57 million records at one time. So if my mail server receives it, and I said, oh, I'm busy right now, what do you think happens to that spam? It's gone. It never comes back. So that's where the gray box is. It's like, well, we're kind of waiting on it. It hasn't got verified yet. But if it comes back again, then we're like, now it's good. So we're going to put you in this listing that received mail. So there's a lot of stuff involved in email. Okay? But no one really says it in the slides about how SPF works and all that. But you take that information, you take your record here, then you go to your, well, I'll just copy one. So you take this whole blooming thing right here, I copy it, and I don't know if I can paste into vSphere. If I can, no, I can't. But you would paste it right there. You paste it right in there, and then it would work. That's how an SPF record works. Okay. Now, it's a little more than you need to know, but there's also a bunch of other record types, as you can tell. There's a whole bunch of them. I just don't know why. See, the funny thing is, if you use like GoDaddy for DNS, they have SPF listed. Use Microsoft? No, they don't list it. It's stupid. Why don't they list it? This is server 2012. SPF's been around since about 2002. I realize it's only been 10 years, but this was actually where I was doing all my research for my PhD initially. It sucks since I don't do it anymore. Okay, so let's continue on. All right. So there are some advanced options you can view, and let's see. Can we do that on all the resource records? Let's look at that. Let's go look at one. Let's pick a record. We're going to find our record here. Then there's our security settings, and then there's the advanced options. So there's so much more you can do now. It's a little different because we're on a domain controller. It's probably not going to look exactly the same. Okay. But you can set who can read them, who can write them. This really comes into play when you're talking about like internal stuff, kind of like inside the Tinker. You want to make sure that only certain people can view this and that kind of stuff. So you can actually set the security settings on your domain records. Okay. All right. So that's kind of what they're talking here. And you can even tell when to delete the record. We don't have that option because we're on the domain, but if we were not on the domain, we'd have that option. Okay. All right. Now let's look at See, we can't edit all those. Let me add a service record real quick. Let me add a new other record. It's going to add a serve. Actually, it was on the list, wasn't it? New. Wasn't service on there initially? I swear it was there. I thought it was. SRV record? Maybe not. Okay. So let's add this record, and we'll say we're going to be FTP using TCP. Okay, and it's going to be ftp.kendui.com. Okay. Alright, and I don't know if they're going to give me the options to do anything else with it. Okay, let's look. No, they're not going to give us the same options. Well, that sucks. Okay. But, wait, hold on. Maybe it's, hold on, let's look up there. View, advanced. Maybe. It's there. They moved it. Maybe we can see it. Maybe not. Come on. Well, it's not showing anything. Oh, there it goes. Now it is showing stuff at the bottom. Okay. It was under View Advanced, so they moved where that setting was at. So now we have the actual TTL, the time to live of the specific records instead of the entire zone. So that's something new. Okay. Alright, so we're talking about that there. And that's the new change for 2012. Round robin, let me show you what that is. It's kind of cool. If I do NS lookup for Google, okay, everybody see all those numbers? If I do it again, you'll notice they rotate. See how the numbers are rotating? That's called round robin. What that means is every person that queries Google, they get a different number. Up to that many numbers, then it repeats. That way, not everybody's hitting the same machine. Can you imagine if the entire world is hitting one server at Google? No, it wouldn't be good. And this is actually, Google's kind of cool because they actually do it specific to their location. Like this is actually out of, is it Pryor, Oklahoma? Anyone know where Google is? Yeah, it's just up by Tulsa area. And so we're actually querying records from that server. So Google's kind of cool. They give it out different areas. But that's how round robin works. It's a balancing mechanism that distributes network load amongst multiple machines. Well, let's see how to set one of those up. Okay. So we already have a host in here for well, let's create a couple hosts in here. One, two. Oh, we already got a CNAME in that. Well, hell, let me delete my CNAME record. Delete you. Okay, new host. Okay, then we're going to go www. www. So you'll notice I'm adding multiple entries with the same name. Everybody see that? So now if I query I actually get three numbers and they should rotate. See how they're rotating? So I can do my own round robin. That's if you have multiple servers that do the same thing. So in the way you make it work is the names have to be the same, but the IPs have to be different. So it's going to go this one, then this one, then this one. It's going to keep going around. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So by default, DNS uses round robin to rotate the resource records, returning a query where multiple resource records exist, which we just saw. Can be enabled or disabled by opening the server properties and turning it on or off. And there's the enable or disable round robin. I don't know what happens. I've never. Let's look here. Okay, properties. It's under the advanced. I don't know what happens if I turn it off. Let's find out. I've never tried that. Aha, they're not rotating now. You see that?
Surprise.
Imagine that. You can turn it off just by a click of a button. So, all right, let's go back and turn it back on. And that's on advanced right here. And now they should rotate. Yep, they're rotating now. Okay. So there we go. We set up round robin. I need to put that in. Maybe that'd be a good thing for your test. All right. Dynamic updates. says resource records are automatically created and updated. You can actually make DNS where it'll pull from DHCP. So when Sam over there gets an IP address via DHCP, it'll automatically register itself with DNS. And when Sam releases his lease, it'll automatically delete it from DNS. So it's kind of nice the way all that stuff works. Okay. And we already talked about the secure and the non-secure. That's the thing where I told you whenever I had an issue, whenever called Microsoft, they're like, well, accept secure and non-secure. And that was under here, right there. Secure and non-secure. Okay. The reason for that is secure ones obviously can be from Active Directory controllers. But what if you have a server that's not an Active Directory controller? Because the whole nice thing about DNS is you can actually synchronize the servers all over the world. So you would not be able to synchronize with a server that did not support security if you had it turned on the other way. Okay. All right. Let's see. That's where we kind of just saw that. Aging. This is a process of using timestamps to track the age of records, and scavenging is to remove them. I talked about that last time. So aging and scavenging is very important, even though a lot of people don't. Oh, it was right there. Darn it. It was right there. A lot of people do not turn it on. So you can tell it to scavenge ones, which means they will, after so many days of non-use, they will delete themselves. It's like Tinker uses that. So, all right. Okay, we just saw we're turning that on. Okay. Okay. Non-refresh. It says the time between the most recent refresh of a record and the moment when the timestamp can be refreshed again. Actually, that's something new. I don't know if we can adjust that. Yeah, it is. Okay, you can do both. Okay, you can do non-refresh and refresh. So that's a new option. At least I think it is. Okay. All right. So when they can be refreshed. Okay. And there's the option what we were just looking at. I think it's a good idea to turn it on, yet like Rose doesn't. So I don't know. It's okay. And you can use the command tool to do all this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to make you do that. Troubleshooting. ipconfig, nslookup, and the DNS console. Okay, let's look at a couple of them. ipconfig has some options. They have ipconfig all. Let me show you what the difference is. I know most of you should know this already. If I do ipconfig, actually let me clear out my console. I get all this stuff. Okay, that's what I get. But if you look up here at the DNS information, it's not a lot of detail. Okay. Now, if I do ipconfig/all, okay, now it actually gives me a whole bunch more. So when I get up here to the top, which is, this one, okay, you see now I'm getting a lot more information. I'm getting my DHCP server. I'm getting all kinds of that. Is DHCP enabled? Okay. Is auto configuration. There's just all different settings. You get all my DNS servers. And if you don't think that's a lot, let me do it without it just so you can see the difference. Let me clear it first. There it is without it. That's all you get. So you're missing a lot of information with just ipconfig. Okay. So all displays everything. Okay. Flush DNS clears your DNS. In other words, your machine, you can actually, there's display DNS. ipconfig/display DNS. And what this will do is it'll show you all the things cached. Wow, is that all I got? Okay, I have one thing cached. That's our server downstairs. Now I'm going to go over here to, let's go to google.com. Okay, now I went to Google. Now I'm going to go back in here and display DNS again. And I get all this stuff. Why? Does anyone know why? Holy macholi. That's a lot of stuff. Okay. All this was from one query to Google. Look at all that. Holy moly. It's all Google statistics. Wow. That's for one query to Google. Isn't that amazing? I didn't realize I put that much stuff. And you can always clear it with flush. Okay. Now if I display it again, you'll see it's gone. And I'm gonna let's go to rose.edu, see what they give me. You know we don't host our own website anymore. Do you know that? It's actually outsourced. Okay. So now I'm going to display TNS. Okay. And, okay, so we got, oh, you got a lot of stuff here too. This is all from the row state query. Man. So we have a lot of advertising going on. Element Fusion is who hosted for us. Then we got News OKs, which obviously we must have a link somewhere. Radium 3, the 15th Street News. Wow, Rose.edu. Publisher's Dream, Inachieving Dream.org. What that means is all these links on our page are linking to all that. Oh, there they are down here. That's why I've got all these links. There's Achieving the Dream. And there's our Higher Learning Commission, and so on and so forth. So that's one way you can do it with the command prompt. You can also register stuff. You can. What's nice about this, you can actually script it so to register certain domains with the host, so they don't. See, this whole caching thing is. I know it now, so I'm not going to ask anybody else. So if you actually registered one, the machine wouldn't go out and ask for it because it already knows it. Okay. There's what ipconfig. That all looks like. There's your display cache. Okay. Actually, can we do that? Let's try this. Can I do ipconfig google.com? No, I can't. How do they get it to work? It's not fair. Oh, it's NS lookup. Okay. Yeah, but they're getting so much more information than us. Oh, I guess it's just the IPv6 stuff. I thought it was more than that. Okay. Then you can use flush DNS to clear it. And you can also register with it. Now, testing. I think we looked at this a little bit last time. If you go into your server, under the Properties tab, there's a advanced. Hold on, where's it at? Come on. I know it's on one of these darn things. It's under monitoring. There it is. Okay, it's under monitoring. You can actually do some queries, and it'll actually go out and test. So it did a simple inner recursive query, and they all checked good. Okay, so that's how you test DNS. Is anyone totally full of DNS right now? You know everything there is to know about DNS? Those of you that looked at the homework, do you think you know enough to do the homework? It's basically different record types. The host record, you know, that kind of stuff. So,
Did you go over a mail server?
go over the mail record? Sure. Let's look at that real quick. All right. So I'm on the Kendui domain. I'm going to go in here and add a mail exchanger record. Okay. You want to give it the name. This, since I'm doing this from the kendui.com, wherever I put at the top is going to be prepended to my name. So it's going to be kenmail. So now kenmail.kendui.com will be the name of it. But my mail is actually managed over at mail.somewhereelse.com. Okay? And this one's priority 3. Okay? So what this means is when someone sends mail to mail.kendui.com, I'm going to forward it over to mail.somewherehere.com, and since it's priority 3, it's going to be the highest priority. Okay? And mail exchanger just means that type of record it is. It's just an MX record. Okay? So I think in the homework I tell you to have mail.whatever, go to mail.internettext.net or something. I don't.
You say mail record pointing to mail.internet.
Yeah. And you can also do it this way. You can also leave the top one blank. Just forward it to mail.internettext.net. And now what it'll do is if just a mail record shows up to my domain without a host at the beginning. So if mail was destined for kendui.com, it will send it over to mail.internettext.net. Okay, pretty simple. When I was hosting all the mail for all those companies, I would edit their DNS. So whatever their name was, you know, mail.bartconnorgymnastics.com went to mail.internettext.net. Then I would add Bart Connor Gymnastics to my mail server. So the mail would come to me, then I would manage it for them. So, pretty simple. So did I explain the rest of it in there? Pretty much? I think I went over most of it. Okay? All right, well, we're out of class time for today. We're going to have to do DHCP next time. All right? So you should have enough now to do your DNS homework. What I want you to do is just do it in your machine. And I don't know if I put a Dropbox up there for it. If I didn't, I will. Then just put a note in there. I'm done. Then I will go look at your server, then update it. Okay? So hopefully you know a little bit more about DNS than you did when you got here.
Is the actual like homework when you what you're telling us to do, is it a PowerPoint
It's a PDF file. It's up there. Is it in the content page?
Is it the network administration assignment?
Yeah.
DNS configuration?
Yes, that's it. That's the one. All right. So do it, and when you're done, post it in the Dropbox that you're done, and I will look at it. Okay? It's not overly difficult, but I will tell you, you will be doing the same thing on the test. So when I grade it and tell you, hey, you screwed this up, make sure you know how to fix it. And don't add a stub domain in there. Someone's going to do it. It happens every time. Just remember, if I ask you to have www.kendewey.com, you just put the www. So if you put the whole thing at the top, it's going to be www.kendewey.com.kendewey.com. So